no idea what they were doing. I was able to launch campaigns, and instead of getting $1 a like, I was getting 5 or 10 likes for a penny. So
welcome back to Young Smart Money with me, your host, Apple Crider. Today we have the social media wizard, Paul Getter, on the podcast. Okay, this dude's doing some massive things in the Facebook ads, Google ads, YouTube ads, in the paid traffic space. Okay, there have been months, he's going to tell you about it, where he has spent over $5 million on ads on Facebook alone in a single month. So this dude is moving mountains with his ads, okay? He's doing some huge branding campaigns for a lot of big influencers like he will talk about throughout the show. But what we're going to be talking about is really how you can start to get involved in both the paid traffic and the personal branding space. Okay, these are areas that Paul spoken and well educated in. He's got over 1 million followers on his personal Instagram account, which is @Paul, which is looking pretty fresh. And he's got, again, that agency where they are spending significant dollars in ads every single month. So if you're somebody who's interested in starting an agency where you might do some paid traffic with some local businesses, or you're interested in building out your personal brand, which honestly everyone should be, like we talk about throughout the podcast, like a personal brand is like a rising tide because it lifts all ships, okay? So whether you have an agency, whether you're doing public speaking, whether you have a book, like literally having that personal brand and building that personal brand, it raises all of those things, okay? It brings all of those things to the next level. So we're going to be talking about that, why you got to be building that personal brand, and how you can start to incorporate paid traffic into everything that you're doing, and how you can like effectively use ads. Like Paul has brought the cost per lead for clients down literally 10-fold, sometimes even more than that, because he's just an ads wizard. Okay, this dude's an ads wizard. We're going to get him on the show. We are going to allow him to share his story, his knowledge, his experiences with all of y'all on Young Smart Money here today. So without further ado, let's welcome Paul Getter onto the podcast. I want you guys to sit back, relax, plug in, and enjoy this episode of Young Smart Money with Paul Getter. All right, Paul, welcome to Young Smart Money. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic, Apple. Pleasure connecting with you, man. Just having a conversation about your name, and do people know your real name?
Some people do, but I don't talk about it very often.
Let's not talk about it. It's Apple. Nope. Apple Crider. All right.
From day one, it's been Apple.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, I usually only share it when I go on other people's podcasts, so that you gotta have those exclusive.
You'll have to come to my podcast next time.
All right, then the listeners can know.
Yes, absolutely.
I love it. So, Paul, our listeners, they got to hear a little bit about you in the intro to this episode, but for those of them that aren't familiar with who Paul Getter is and what you're currently doing right now, give us like a 60-second snapshot of what you're doing.
Sure. So again, my name is Paul Getter. A lot of people know me as the internet marketing nerd. I've had the privilege of working with a lot of cool people, whether it's Ty Lopez, Grant Cardone, Bob Proctor, a lot of big names within the entrepreneur space.
Yeah.
Fortune 500 companies, A-list celebrities. We basically run paid ads, branding, help people go viral in different projects, and so we've been able to spend a significant amount of money in paid ads, Facebook ads, YouTube ads, probably in the top 10% of ad spenders when it comes to online paid traffic.
Wow. Can you give us any idea of how much the top 10% spends, or?
Yeah, so I can tell you that we've had months where we have spent in excess of $5 million in a month. Just in Facebook ads. So that's not including our other platforms, YouTube, Google, and other platforms like that. So yeah, we've spent millions of dollars a month just in paid ads. So with that, crazy. We've been able to gain a lot of great information.
I bet. I got a buddy of mine who spends like $25K a day on Facebook ads, and I thought that was a lot. But I mean, if you're spending $5 million a month, like that's a little bit more than $25K a day.
Yeah. We've had some big months, and again, that's just one platform, not including Google and YouTube. Those platforms. So
that's huge, man. Well, I'm stoked to dive into that. But the first place I like to start all the interviews off at is sort of flashing back in time, because we do have a younger listener base here. We're talking to mostly high school and college students. So
okay, awesome.
Flashing back to I like to start with middle school and high school years, just to get a picture for like who you are and where you got started. So in that time period, were you someone who was interested in entrepreneurship? Were you taking school very seriously? Were you a guy that was really involved in sports? Like, what did that look like for you?
Yeah. So I guess middle school, high school, I wasn't really future minded.
Okay.
like many middle school and high schoolers, I was just, going to school. So I really, so let me say this,
Sure.
um, because uh, I I wasn't an entrepreneur, but I wanted to make money. So so at an early age, I did do things like, for example, we would go door to door, knocking on doors to ask people if we could mow their grass. We would, do whatever we could. I remember going in middle school, probably even earlier than that. We would knock on people's doors and ask them if we could take out their garbage and just take their garbage out, and maybe they'd give us 50 cents or something like that. So I was in a position where I was interested in making money, and it wasn't one of those that just mom and dad give me some money. I was in a position where I had to, if I wanted money, I had to go get it myself.
Mm.
So that was entrepreneur minded,
Yeah.
I guess you would say. Yeah.
For
So.
sure. So like, did you have any like projects you were working on or like getting involved in anything else other than just like random side jobs here and there?
No, again, it was just kind of one of those things on the weekend. My cousin and I, or a friend, we would just, it's basically, I remember we would mow a lawn for $5.
Hmm.
Again, just go door to door with our little lawnmower and push it and see a lawn that needs to be mowed and say, hey, we need to mow that lawn, and get $5. And the reason it was $5 is because it was $2 to go to the movies.
Mm.
So $2 for me, $2 for my cousin, and then we had 50 cents that we could spend on getting popcorn or whatever it might be. So, but yeah, so it was that, just whatever we could do to make money as a young middle school student. So.
For sure. So then like graduating from high school, was college like a big decision for you? Was that like a value that was really enforced by your family, or what did that look like?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, I actually went to college and studied theology,
Hmm.
which is not a very marketable degree. If you
Oh.
know, theology is, I put it on my resume one time that I had a degree in theology, and somebody was like, "Is that the study of rocks?" I'm like, "No, that's geology." So theology is I went to a biblical school, studied the Bible, theology, Christianity. So again, not a very marketable degree.
Yeah.
But while I was in college, again, this is in the early to mid '90s, and I date myself just by saying this, but this was like before that old internet thing became popular. But we were building. I was always tech minded.
Right.
I guess another thing, jumping back to my early years, at 11 years old, I was actually coding. Uh,
Really?
yeah, my mother got a computer, and it was Tandy 1000EX. And there used to be this store called Radio Shack. And so my mom got a computer from Radio Shack. And it was funny because when we got this computer, you could play games on it. But it came with a book that you had to actually type in the programs. And it was simple programs like Pong and basic games. Again, really cool back then. But the problem is we couldn't afford a disk drive. So when you would program it in, normally you would save it on a disk drive,
Mm.
but we didn't have the disk drive. So every time we turned off the computer, we lost that information. So at 11 years old, I wanted to play that game quite a bit. So anytime I turn it off, I have to turn it back on, and I have to program that game back in. So at 11 years old, I was memorizing coding just because we didn't have a floppy drive. So I had an interest in tech, in computers. So when I was in college, the college actually, threw me into a computer lab, and they were like, "Hey, do you know how to set up a bulletin board system?" I'm like, "No, not really." And they're like, "Well, here's a book." And so I read the book and learned how to set up bulletin board systems. Again, just no formal training or schooling, but just kind of learned coding and setting up bulletin board systems and websites, I guess you would say, for the school and building a network for the school. So that's kind of was my introduction to the coding, computer programming, and I guess you would say the online world.
For sure. So clearly there was a span of time there between like when you graduated school and when you got involved with like the social media side of things. So what came between there? Were you like in corporate America? Were you starting different projects based on your like technology experience, or what did that look like?
Yeah, so it was just completely 9 to 5 type jobs.
Wow.
It again with a degree in theology, it wasn't very marketable. And worked in various capacities of like whether it's sales or I mean just anything and everything. Had a little bit of background in medical field,
Hmm.
so it was 9 to 5 jobs, and it wasn't until I remember I was again in my I guess you would say hobby or little side jobs. I might do build someone a website,
Hmm.
and very inexpensive, and again this is probably going into early 2000s, when there wasn't a huge boom or uh, growth online, but I started learning how to build websites and stuff. So every once in a while someone might say, hey, you know how to build a website? And I was like, yeah, I could build one, and I might make $500, $1,000 doing that. So I was working a corporate job, 9 to 5 job, and I remember it was, man, it was a very hostile environment. The uh, the supervisor was very aggressive, and it was a sales type job with quotas, and he would come in very aggressive and yelling and screaming at people, and it just again a hostile work environment. Didn't like it, and one day I said to him, I was like, hey man, and again this is the supervisor, I'm like,
Yeah.
nobody here in this office likes you. I mean, when you leave, people cry. Nobody likes working for you. The only reason people are here is because they need a paycheck. And I'm saying this to the supervisor. He's like, hey, Paul, if you keep talking like that, you're not going to have a job. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I don't want to work for you anymore. And so I quit my job, and I was put in a position where, again, I had bills, I had a family, I had stuff I had to do. And so I kind of went in full speed into building websites and exploring online marketing type of opportunities.
Amazing. So what gave you like the courage or like the inspiration to like stand up to that guy? Because clearly nobody else was doing it. And it sounded like you were pretty reliant on that income stream. So what gave you the push to do that?
Yeah, I think that there are certain things within a person's integrity and their core beliefs that, you're just, regardless of a paycheck or whatever it might be, that you just can't uh, set and listen to it. And this was, again, a very rude, obnoxious guy. He would come in making racist comments and things like that. It didn't set well with me. So it was one of those things where I knew I didn't want to work for him anymore, and didn't feel comfortable. And it was one of those things that I remember working there. And again, this was this guy's attitude. He was obnoxious, he was rude. But when you walked out to the parking lot, man, he had a nice car. He was very wealthy, had a house down at the beach. And I thought to myself, I'm like, man, if this guy is so rude, so obnoxious, nobody likes him, but he's making good money, then I think I have a chance too.
I love it. So when you made that leap and quit your job, how were you getting clients for this business? It sounds like you had been doing a little bit of work before. So was it mostly referrals, or how were you getting people in the door?
Yeah, I think it was definitely referrals at first on the website type of stuff. But then there came a transition, and this is right when Facebook started to gain popularity. That I was playing around with Facebook, and I was building Facebook pages, kind of just like a hobby.
Hmm.
I might build pages about cats, about dogs, about whatever. And I kind of figured it out, and I was posting pictures, growing. And this is back in the day when Facebook organic reach was incredible. And
Yeah.
so I was building pages, large pages, really quickly, posting viral content and stuff. and I would throw up gigs on Fiverr. And so I was making $5, $10, $15, $20. People like, hey, can you share my content on your page? And eventually, after growing this large portfolio of Facebook pages, I started having big companies reach out to me and ask me to help them grow their Facebook page.
Okay. So was it just like they just saw what you were doing? Did you have your name anywhere, or was it like?
No, it was just, they would see these Facebook pages and they would inbox me and they would say, hey, would you help us grow our page? And I was like, yeah, and so conversations would start up. And then, when I realized that there was money in doing this, I would sit and I would watch on Facebook people running ads. And after learning how to do Facebook ads in a very professional way where I could get results that were a lot better than the average person, I could look at someone's ads. I'm like, they don't know what they're doing. Facebook had this option where you could like click a button and it would auto-populate an ad for you and grow your page. And I knew if anybody auto-populated an ad, that they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know how to dig into the Facebook ads manager, the right targeting and stuff. So I would see these ads that I knew that were auto-generated, and I would message people and I'd say, hey, how are your ads going? And I'd find out how much they were spending, know the results. And I would say, hey, I can get you twice as, better results if you let me do it. And so that's how I started acquiring clients, is looking for bad ads on Facebook.
Huh. Super interesting. And I mean, like, that's such a core pillar of what I do as well. Is like, you got to find a problem that you can provide a solution for. And you had this solution with this Facebook ads skills. So how did you develop your skills in the Facebook ad space? Was it a lot of stuff that was transferable from growing these pages, or was it a pretty different ballgame?
Yeah. So again, this is back in the day when Facebook ads, it was like the wild, wild west. Not very many people were doing Facebook ads. It was very wonky and just, again, not very many people were doing Facebook ads. So I dug into it and started learning it. And this was before the days when there was all kinds of courses and training. It was just dig in and figure it out yourself. And so that's what I did, is I just kind of dug in, figured it out myself, and I started doing it. And, when you're one of the first persons in there running Facebook ads, it gives you a huge advantage to the average person.
So throughout this time period, it doesn't really sound like you had any mentors in the area of like growing Facebook pages or Facebook ads. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. Again, it started as a hobby that I was just building pages because it was fun. And, again, organic reach, when Facebook first started, it was a completely different game. Like if you had a page of 100,000 people, you could post a picture on there and you would get 100,000 likes. And if it went viral, you might get 1,000,000 likes on a picture on a page that only had 100,000 likes. So it's completely different back then, that you could post content and really grow it. And so I started learning little tricks. Of course, I would do something, it would go viral. I'm like, okay, I'm going to try that again. And I would try it on different pages and grow pages. And again, it was a different organic algorithm that we were working with then. And it made a great opportunity to grow pages, make money, and kind of learn a lot there.
For sure. So are you still doing any organic stuff on Facebook right now, or have you kind of pivoted away from that?
Yeah, don't really do a whole lot of organic stuff on Facebook. It's just paid traffic that we do. The organic reach on Facebook is just, it's very dismal. You can have a page of 1 million, and if you get a couple thousand likes on it, it's like, well, you're doing good. So it's horrible.
Absolutely. So at this point, you're sort of getting into the ad side of things. And were you mostly getting clients through just like reaching out to people with bad ads, or did you have any other way to get clients?
Yeah. So that initially, what I was doing is, again, I would see a bad ad and I would message people. And like, for example, people were running campaigns to grow their Facebook page with the objective to acquire likes for the Facebook page. And I would start a conversation with them and I would say, hey, how much are you spending on your marketing to grow your page? And they would say, oh, I'm spending $40 a day. And I'm like, okay, so they're spending over $1,000 a month. And I'd ask them like, so what type of results are you getting? I'm like, oh, I'm getting 30, 40 likes a day doing it. And I'm like, okay, so they're about $1 a like. Again, I had no idea what they were doing. I was able to launch campaigns, and instead of getting $1 a like, I was getting 5 or 10 likes for a penny. So, so with the results that they were getting with $1, I could get with 10 cents, and I could multiply the results. And so what I would do is, first of all, instead of them getting 100 likes, I would get them 500 likes for the same budget. And then the rest was my profit that I made. And so you can see if you found a couple people that were spending a couple $1,000s a month, you could, potentially make a few $1,000s just by setting up campaigns like this.
Do you think that's a good business model for the young, like 18, 19, 20-year-old who hasn't really had much entrepreneurial experience? Or do you think that's not a great way to get started?
Well, obviously, like you said, if you can find people that are doing something and it's not really effective and you can improve the results, then you've got a marketable skill. People never complained that I was making money because, again, they were spending $100 and getting 100 likes. Now they're spending $100 and they're getting 1,000 likes. So they loved me. But, I was making $90 profit. It only took me $10 to get the same results. So yeah, if you can find someone that is, maybe they're doing poor marketing and you can improve on it, they'll love you for it.
That's the truth. That's the truth. So how did you start then connecting with some of these bigger influencers, like you mentioned in the beginning of the episode? When did that start happening?
Yeah, so there was a long period of time, several years, probably about 4 or 5 years, that I was kind of like the underground marketer, where nobody knew about me. Like guys in the industry, they would call me up and I was coaching some of the biggest names, some guys that are doing huge things. I was coaching them and talking to them because, again, there wasn't very many people doing paid Facebook ads. So when people saw me doing stuff at a high level, they would just reach out to me. But I didn't, it was just like, hey, I'm getting paid for telling someone how to do Facebook ads. That was cool. I never presented myself as a coach, as a consultant. It was just like, I thought I was lucky that I knew a little bit more than they knew, and people would pay me for that. So that was cool. And then I remember one time someone was talking, and it was just, again, a word of mouth type of situation. And they're like, hey, this guy, he knows about Facebook marketing, and people started connecting me with some big name people. And next thing you know, I'm getting on a jet flying out to meet, Ty Lopez, and sitting in his house and talking to him. And again, from there, it's just kind of when you start working with one or two big names. And again, we've worked with, A-list celebrities and athletes and stuff. And it's just kind of like, once you work with one, and I think what I initially did when I saw opportunity like that is, if I could somehow get connected with a notable person, I would say to them, hey, is it all right if I help you out on your marketing? And I would almost like volunteer my skills and just help them out, because I knew that if I could put on my resume that I worked with this person, that it would help give me the edge for my resume.
That's the truth. So was this before or after you started building your personal brand?
Yeah, so this was before that I started working with some big name people, and I never really even considered a personal brand until it was kind of accidental that some of these high profile people that I would work with, they would be speaking at a conference and I might be there, and then all of a sudden they would point me out and they would start talking about what I'm doing for them, and then next thing I know, people are coming to me, and I'm like, I kind of like accidentally turned into a personal brand. So yeah, it's kind of unique, I guess.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So, as far as like our younger listeners are concerned, how would you recommend going about like starting to build your network? Because you were associating with some really high level people. If we have listeners who have aspirations of doing similar things, what are some good first steps they can start to take to move themselves closer to the place where they're meeting these Ty Lopez's, these Grant Cardones?
Yeah, so a few different things. First of all, you got to go where they are. So you got to go to the conferences, you've got to go to the seminars, you've got to invest, and that might cost you some money to go to these conferences, go to the seminars. But even a better way is, first of all, you have to have something that brings value. You can't say, oh, I want to work with Ty Lopez, I want to work with this guy, I want to work with this person, and you don't have anything to offer because you can't bring value. So the first thing that you have to do is you have to have a marketable skill. You have to have something that would actually bring value. So that's the first thing. That's something that happens in obscurity. You're learning something, you're perfecting, you're studying, and there's so much that you can learn on YouTube, Udemy, and sites like that where it doesn't cost a lot of money. I think that there's a tremendous amount of stuff that you can learn online that is free. So get a skill that you really perfected, something that gives you that edge, and then begin to reach out and network to those people. Like I could give you a perfect example. If you could make really cool videos, kind of those meme style videos that you see Gary Vee and those big names that they use these cool videos. If you know how to do that, gather some of their content, make a cool video, send it to them, and say, "Hey, I made this for you." Maybe you're a graphic designer. Make them some cool graphics, send it their way, and say, "Hey, if there's anything that I can do to help you out in the future, just let me know. I'd be glad to make more for you." And then next thing you know, you're working for big people, and you have a relationship with them.
Paul, it's ridiculous that you said that because that's literally the exact thing that I did about a year and a half ago that allowed me to build my network. I literally found people who had large YouTube followings and small Instagram followings. I took their YouTube videos, I turned them into Instagram videos, like those Gary Vee style videos. I
Yeah.
sent them to them for free. And then I built this business where I was making like in the first month, I started working for free, but I got a bunch of referrals. These guys started paying me and I was making like $5,000 a month in 1 month by doing literally exactly what you just outlined there. So
No, it works.
it works. Like that is so much value right there. Literally like
Yeah.
and that's how I started building my network. Like that's how I started associating with those high level people is I had a marketable skill. I offered it to them for free. They saw that it was providing value and then they had reason to compensate me for that. So
Yeah.
I'm just blown away by the fact that you used that exact example.
Yeah. It works. It works.
It absolutely
I,
does.
I have people message me all the time, and not that I don't help people, but people will message me, "Hey, will you mentor me? Will you coach me?" I'm like, "Yeah, but it doesn't work like that. Go here, fill out an application, and we can talk about it." But what they're basically saying is, "Hey, will you give me all your information for free?" And I'm like, "No, it's not going to happen." But if someone comes to me and says, "Hey, I want to help you out. I want to do this," and they've got a skill set, I'm like, "Hey, work with me. Let's talk." And they've got access to me, and I'm not intentionally coaching them. I'm not intentionally mentoring them, but they have access to me, and I'm talking with them. I'm showing them what I'm doing and things like that. And it's they're getting the benefits of mentoring, but they're also, it's not a one-way relationship that, they're just expecting me to give them all kinds of value and insight and training, but hey, they're working with me. And so that's a cool way. You can meet anyone and connect with anyone if you've got a marketable skill set.
Exactly. And oftentimes, like learning from mentors, I have found I don't need it to be like that one-on-one coaching situation. Like if I'm able to work with them, see what they're
Yeah.
doing in their business, and then apply those things to my business, like that's oftentimes a lot more valuable than then sitting down and giving me like a pre-rehearsed like 1 hour script of like, well, first you do this and then you do that. Cause like a lot of times you just need to see like what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's I was just up in New York City, and we've got a relationship with an agency there, and they're doing some really cool stuff. They're doing branding and content creation and stuff. And I went by their office to see what they're doing, and they're going to be helping us with content generation. And so I jumped on their computer and I started showing them how to set up paid ads and get leads. They were telling me that we're playing around with it. And normally if someone says we're playing around with ads, it's dangerous. I mean, like, we're spending money, but we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
So we're wasting money. So, they were getting leads for like $60, $70 a lead. And I jumped on their computer, and really 15 minutes. I was getting ready to go to the airport. 15 minutes, set up an ad. Just had a call with them a few hours ago, and they're getting leads for $6 now. So it's a game changer for them.
Absolutely. So, Paul, fill us in with some of like the core aspects of good ads, okay? Because clearly you have a lot of experience like creating good ads. Like you just showed us an example of how you're able to literally take their cost down tenfold. So when our listeners are thinking about whether they're starting an agency, they're creating ads for their personal brand, like what are the core things that they should be focusing on with these ads that they're creating?
Yeah. So for example, if we're looking at Facebook ads,
sure.
There's so many different objectives when it comes to the Facebook ad platform, whether if you're just getting video views, if you're getting clicks to website, if you're doing conversions. So I think the first thing that you need to clearly define is, what is my objective? Do I just want to get video views for branding purposes? Well, this would be the objective that you want to use. Am I actually wanting to get leads? Well, this is the type of ad that you want to set up. So number one, you have to define your proper objective in the Facebook ads platform. And then secondly, I believe that there's a word that has become popular that really, when it comes to ads, it's critical, but you've got to be disruptive. Your ad can't just, it's such a key aspect when it comes to advertising. You want to get people's attention. I run ads for my personal branding courses and products and stuff. And every once in a while, someone will comment on one of my ads. Oh, you're just doing it for the likes. You're just doing it for the views. And I'm like, yeah, I really am. I am just doing it for the views and the likes, because I know if I can get a lot of views, I know if I can get a lot of likes, a lot of comments, that I can convert all of those eyeballs into money. And it's kind of like saying to a person that ran a Super Bowl ad that cost them $1 million for 30 seconds or whatever the budget is, and saying, hey, you're just running that Super Bowl ad for the views because you want people to see you. Yeah, that's really what I'm doing it for.
Sounds right.
You're exactly right, because I've learned the more people that I can get to view my product, my service, I can translate that into money. So you got to be disruptive. You got to have something that will separate you from everybody else. And then thirdly and finally, I think you really have to know your stats. You have to know your data. All your demographics, your target audience, and what the interests would be. You got to know your customer or client avatar. And when you have all those three things kind of lined up, then I think it's kind of a recipe for good advertisement.
Absolutely. That was extremely valuable. So, Paul, you're working on a couple different projects right now between like your agency and your personal brand and speaking and stuff. So how do you think about your focus and like how you decide like what different sort of activities get your time and your energy and your attention?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to personal branding, and this is probably something I wish I would have learned sooner, is when you develop your personal brand, whatever is connected to it goes up also. So as you grow your personal brand, if you have an agency, if you have a course, if you have something like that, it's also elevated. So investing in your personal brand. That's why I'm here on this podcast with you, man, because I understand, I realize the importance of personal branding. And so growing the message of who I am and what I do, I think that should be a core emphasis in every brand, every company. your branding and who you are, your identity. When you grow that, your courses, your speaking engagements, whatever it might be, it's also elevated too.
For sure. So as far as younger listeners go that want to get started building their personal brand, what are some good first steps? If our listener has dedicated no time, energy, attention into growing a personal brand, like how do they get started?
Yeah. So I always tell people this: content is king. You have to have good content. So invest time and resources in content, study and learn, see what other people are doing for good content, kind of try to replicate that and get out there. Don't be afraid. I mean, one of the things that hold people back is, that the stress of the voices of their peers, critics and haters and things like that. As your personal brand grows, everything else will too. The criticism, the haters, all that. But if your motives are right and your core beliefs are sound, then you don't have anything to worry about. Just, again, give good content, give good value, help other people, and the customers and the clients will follow from that.
That's so true. It's all about helping people and solving problems. Like that is the name of the game. So,
Absolutely.
Paul, what are some of the challenges that you face? Because I'm assuming it hasn't just been all sunshine and rainbows for Paul Getter.
Oh
So
yeah,
talk to the
absolutely.
younger listeners about some of the challenges. Because like I like to keep this stuff real, and like me
Yeah.
personally, I go through a lot of stuff. So like I want you to share some stuff, maybe some stuff you haven't shared to a lot of
Oh
people
man.
before.
Yes. So it's so true. It's like in the entrepreneur world, all you see online is like the highlight reel. It's
Yeah,
like, I made X amount of dollars in 10 minutes and stuff like that. And it's just like, look at my car, look at my home, look at, all the
yeah,
money I've made. And so it's, for those that are living in the real world, it can be demoralizing because you're like, man, they're doing so good and it's not working for me. And, so it can be kind of discouraging when you see other people's success, because that's all they're really going to show you online
yeah.
is, the success stories, the great case studies. But man, I can tell you, like this probably wouldn't be a very marketable headline, but hey, let me tell you about the month that I lost $100,000. Like, how you can lose $100,000 a month. I've had that happen before. Of course, I just to make it feel better for me, I don't say how I lost $100,000. I kind of take a step back and like, the $100,000 lesson that I learned, so
Mhm.
I look at things where I lost, so there's things like that have happened in this journey that you invest within a certain platform, and policies change, you know accounts get banned, and again, like looking back just a year or so ago, I know a lot of guys that were making big money promoting courses on Facebook and cryptocurrency. Facebook
Mhm.
changes its policy. If that's the only thing doing, you're not making any money anymore. Facebook and Google, YouTube, all of them change their policies on running ads on cryptocurrency. So if that was the only thing that you were doing, you're not making any money anymore. So needless to say, over the years, I've experienced, whether it's algorithm changes, policy changes, all of those different things that happen on the internet marketing world. And there's been times where you just take a step back, like, man, business is over, I'm done. And there's 2 or 3 days where you're like, okay, I'm gonna have to go get a 9 to 5 job. But then I take a step back and I'm like, okay, I've got skills, I've got experience that I was able to get this far. So I just have to change. So there is, man, something about knowing how to adapt to the changes. And so you always have to be flexible. You got to be like a chameleon. You got to be able to change with the changes online.
I love it. Do you have any tips for our listeners to how they can keep themselves like nimble and being able to change frequently?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's important to have some type of diversification on your online skills. Whether it's you're an affiliate marketer, you don't want to just be an affiliate marketer. You want to have a your own assets outside of your social media platform. You want to have that email list. You want to have a real network of people. I think that's probably one of the most valuable things that you have to understand is that you have to have like real relationships. Not just like a friend on Facebook or a friend on Instagram. You got to have real relationships that you're like sincerely connected with people that are doing stuff that is bigger than what you are and what you're doing. So when you have those relationships offline, in person, where you're actually shaking hands, talking to people, or maybe it's still online, but you're in a real relationship with that person and you're really giving value, then you might have things that change in what you're doing. But if you're connected with other people in other industries, then you can learn from them and you can grow with them.
That's so true. And it's all about who you know and who you're connected with. And I found
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about podcasting is like I'm able to sit down with cool people like yourself and get to know your story and
Well,
who you are.
I'm not that cool, but you know.
I would definitely say Paul Getter is a pretty cool individual. But Paul, you've been dropping so much value on our listeners, and I'm extremely grateful for that. But before we wrap up the show, I do have some questions that I like to ask all of my guests. So are you feeling ready for those?
Sure, I'll give it a shot.
All right, let's do it. The first thing that I'm curious about is what is something that genuinely has you excited right now? This could be in your business, in the wider world of social media, but like what's got Paul Getter fired up right now?
Man, so I have had great opportunities when it comes to speaking, mentoring, and coaching. And I think there comes a journey when it's like the excitement of making money is like, okay, that's cool, but it's even more exciting to help other people and see them. You know, I've got students of mine that I've helped, go from making $500 a month to now they're making 6 and 7 figures online. That's exciting because, that's changing a person's life. So what excites me is helping other people achieve success online.
I love it. And that's the same mission I'm on. So I really resonate with that.
Cool.
So Paul, do you have any habits that have served you particularly well? These could be in your lifestyle, in your business, but just things you do on a regular basis to help you sort of get to that next level.
Good question. So for me, I'm never meet a stranger, I guess you would say. I will go to, whether it's on the plane, a hotel, at a restaurant, I'm always meeting people. And so for me, it's the getting clients or new relationships or, I'm always meeting people, always talking to people. So if you really want to grow, put yourself out there, connect with people. So everywhere I go, wherever I'm traveling or something, I'm intentionally starting conversations with people to see what they do. I've met again, A-list celebrities. I've met millionaires, billionaires just by saying, hey, what do you do? And so continually be talking to people, definitely.
That's so true. You never know when you're going to meet someone who can really like change the
Yeah,
trajectory of your life. You never know.
Absolutely.
So Paul, I know you're putting out a fair bit of content across different social media channels and doing a fair bit of ads as well, but is there any content that you're consuming right now, whether that's books, audiobooks, podcasts, YouTube channels?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of, matter of fact, I'll tell you why. I'll give him a plug. I just bought Billy Jean's courses, all of his courses. And man, he's a very creative marketer, like what he's doing and stuff. And so I'm going to watch all of his stuff. If you ever get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm the best at it, I know how to do it, man, you've lost.
Yeah.
So I listen to people that are just getting into it, people that have been doing it for a while, because again, I think everybody has value in content. So yeah, I'm always listening and watching. Obviously a lot of the people that I work with, I'm a constant consumer of their content. And so that's a cool thing of working with really successful people. Like this year, I've done 3 or 4 events with Ty Lopez and Alex Mayer. And one of the cool parts of it is just, not only getting to speak on the same stage and platform with them, but sitting there listening to them, and then having the relationship where I can sit in their office and just talk with them and ask them questions. And those guys are brilliant. They're not where they are just because of their fancy cars and their nice homes, but they're brilliant marketers. So it's cool to be able to have relationships like that.
100%. Now, Paul, one thing that I'm always curious about with the people that I have on this show is the things that they choose not to scale. So to give you some context of what I'm talking about here, every single day I'll pull out my phone, I'll go on Instagram, and I'll look at my new followers in the last 24 hours, and I'll pick like 5 to 10 people just randomly to send them a video message being like, hey, Paul, how's it going? Thank you so much for the follow. Let me know if there's ever any way that I can add value to anything that you're doing. Have a wonderful day. Something super simple like that. I don't bring one of my VAs on to send those out all day, because that's not the point. The point for me is to establish those connections. And like you were saying before, like really build a relationship with someone. So is there anything for you in your business, whether it's through your personal brand, your agency, your speaking, but like things that you choose not to scale up and keep that personal Paul Getter touch to?
Yeah. So, I think that there are aspects of, my training, my coaching and consulting that you really can't scale simply because people want to have that relationship with me. And, I've kind of learned that sometimes people, it's not necessarily about strictly the content that you give them, because there might be people that know the same content that you have, but sometimes people want that content coming through you. And they like who you are. They like what you represent, your vision, your core beliefs, and everything like that. So I think there are aspects of coaching and consulting that is limited that personal one-on-one touch. And obviously speaking and events and stuff like that, I can't really scale that just because of I can only be one place at one time. So yeah. And there are aspects of running ads and managing ads and the business administrative type of things that I can't scale just because of the who I am.
For sure. So, Paul, you have been providing so much value to our listeners. And again, I'm extremely grateful for you and your time. Where can our listeners go if they want to find out more about Paul Getter and what you're currently working on right now, and just follow up with you?
Cool. So a few different ways that you can connect with me. Number one, you can connect with me on Instagram. Really easy to connect with me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Paul. That's it. Paul, Paul. It's not like Paul _123 cool guy. It's just Paul. That's my Instagram. Also, if you want to connect with our business and kind of a little bit of our training and stuff, you can go to the Instagram handle Nerds, Nerds. Follow those 2 pages, Paul and Nerds. You can message us and we'll get connected with you. If you want to connect with us for consulting or to learn more about us, you can simply go to my website. My website is paulgetter.com, GETTER.com. And I guess one final way is if you want to get on our text messaging list, you can text the word Nerds, Nerds, to 313131, and you'll join our text messaging platform. So those are just a few ways that you can connect with us. So again, if anybody's listening to this podcast, you can send me a message on Paul, say, hey, I heard you on Apple Crider's podcast and like what you're doing, and I'll send you a link to some free PowerPoints and slides and cool stuff like that you can get some content for free.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Paul. I appreciate that. And I'll be sure to link up all of those in the show notes for this episode as well for our listeners to have easy access to.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate what you're doing, man. You're a really cool guy. I'd love to keep connected with you and continue this conversation and relationship on a long-term basis.
Thank you so much, Paul. I appreciate that. Do you have any last closing thoughts, words of wisdom, or anything you want to end the show with here today?
So I have a little catchphrase that I say sometimes. I say, a nerd today is your boss tomorrow. So be nice to nerds.
I love it. Be nice to nerds, everyone. Paul, I appreciate you, man.
All right. Thank you very much. You have a great day, man.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Young Smart Money. Again, if you guys did enjoy the show, do remember to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. It really does help us get in front of more people with the show. It helps you hear from even more amazing guests. It just makes the world go round when you do smash that 5-star in iTunes. And if you guys want me to shout you out in my Instagram story, I am always up for that. So if you send a screenshot of your review to Apple Crider Official on Instagram, shoot me a DM of that or just tag me in it. Would love to repost it on my short story and give y'all a shout out there. Otherwise, I hope you guys do have a wonderful day, whether you're out walking the dog, whether you are at the gym, whatever you are up to on this fine day. I hope it is a splendid one, and I will see you in the next episode. Have a wonderful day. Real quick, just launched a new project called the Online Course Examiner, basically the Yelp of online courses. It is blowing up lately, onlinecourseexaminer.com. Check it out.